you said something in the book that was interesting to me about like dropping your past, or how did you word it? It was like shed
Yeah,
your past.
don't let your past infect your present.
Damn.
Right? People carry that baggage, and that's what I was doing when I came to New
Yeah.
York. Like I had middle school, high school, college bullshit like on my shoulders. I had self-esteem issues, which then turned into overeating issues, which then made me feel bad about myself, which then turned into self-esteem issues, which then made me feel even worse, which then turned into overeating, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And I would carry that into my future. And it's like, just like what I realized is you don't do that. You look at life like the weather, right? There are going to be storms and there are going to be sunny skies. But guess what? Can't rain all the time. And it's not gonna. So you can walk around and talk about how much it rained last week over and over and over and over and over. Or when it rains, fucking get out of the rain, or you enjoy the shit out of it, because sometimes it's okay to get wet. And when it's sunny, it's awesome. You were ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you take that into the future.
You really do that, huh? You really think that way. Yeah, you really think that way now. And speaking of rain, it just made me think about something because COVID's rained on a lot of people's parties and
Yeah.
parades.
Yeah, for sure.
People are like, "Hey, man, this sounds really good. I need to develop this energy, but man, I'm starting over right now. Like, I'm that dude, that shows up to the casting call of life right now, and it's been raining a long time."
Yeah, listen, I mean, that's what I'm here for right now. Like, I'll be very clear and very blunt, and I think my mom tells me I'm too honest sometimes. Um, I, I I'm not an author. Like, yes, I wrote this book because it kind of poured out of me. But I'm not a coach. I'm not a guru in any way. I am a real estate broker in New York City. I run a real estate firm. I'm addicted to deals, and I want to sell more real estate than anyone ever, ever, ever. That's what I do. Um, uh, and I was talking to people during quarantine who are trying to get into the sales business or trying to start a business, and they were being fired or they were being let go or they were really, really, really terrified. And that's who this book is for, because I knew exactly how they felt. I know exactly what it's like to have your credit card declined at a grocery store, right? I was there. I know exactly what it was like to hold back tears sitting on the subway when I was in my early 20s, because I had no idea what the fuck I was going to do. And failing was just not an option for me. It just wasn't, because I knew even then, like, shit, it's still not as bad as it could be. So what? I need more money. So does everybody. Like, I'm not the only one. At least I'm in New York City. At least I'm here. I'm on a sub. I've got shoes. I've got pants. I've got clothes. And I started making everything so relative. And so what I did is I sat down and I was taught to do this back when I would have panic attacks a lot when I was a little kid. And I made two lists on a piece of paper. Right? We don't write enough with our hands. Everyone types. Our thumbs are going to fall off one day. So I got a pen and paper, and on the left-hand side of the paper, I wrote down everything that I hate, everything that sucked, everything that was making me sad, everything that was making me depressed, all the anxiety, all the reasons, everything I wrote down. And then on the right side of the paper, after I drew that big line, I wrote down everything that's good, all the good things. As simple as breakfast was good. It wasn't sunny out. That's nice. I'm glad it wasn't raining. Oh yeah, no, I did that deal. Okay, that was good. And then this, and then this. Oh, and my parent. And before you know it, you breathe. And the right side of the paper is so much longer than the left side, because good will always outweigh evil if you do the exercise right. And I talk to a lot of people who've had a really, really hard time in 2020, and I've asked them to do that exercise. And they always take a moment. They come back and say, holy shit, I didn't realize how much good I have going on right now. And the three things that make me really, really nervous, yeah, they're super big. Yeah, I lost her or him. Yeah, this is fucked up. But holy shit, do I have an amazing opportunity in front of me right now? And a big part of finding that big money energy to allow yourself to win as much as you want to, right? You got to have that want. Is to be an opportunist. To be an opportunist. You have to have the power to make your own magic. You can't wait for someone else to do it. I mean, my career really took off when I realized I didn't need anyone to provide me
Yep.
with an opportunity. Opportunities are everywhere if you're comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like I still, to this day, I've been in the business for 12 years. I do, last year was a tough year for real estate in New York, but in 2019, we did 1.4 billion in sales. I to this day, every day, I cold email billionaires.
Do you really?
It's part of my job. I cannot not do it because people of means either take direct referrals from friends or family, or they just don't have the time to think about it. And they don't have the time to think about me, right? So I'm going to make sure that I'm in front of them. And I come up with new ways to reach out to 15 new people every single day. And I make that part of my work. That's my work. If I do that, I won.
This is when you're shooting everything, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
It. So stay on that for a minute. This is the opposite question, because this is really telling about you. Most people, failure gets them, right? It gets them. But the other thing is, like, some limited amount of success really gets a lot of people. You know this. You've watched a whole bunch of people that you've passed by. It's like they get to a certain point. Maybe they've exceeded where they thought they were going to get in the very beginning, and they just stop doing the things that got them there, or even increasing them. So that's very impressive to me to hear that. And I'd like to think I'm the same way. Like, I'm still grinding, some days harder than I did in the beginning. And there's times where I go, what the hell am I doing? Right. But then I'm like, I'd feel naked if I didn't do certain things. I'd have tremendous anxiety if my normal rituals I don't do every day. But there's something about you, brother, that it is different. Now, I think everybody can have it, but you kept blowing through levels, right? Like another one, and now you're even at another one. What is that? And speak to that to people that right now think that, hey man, I'm playing with house money. I'm ahead of where I was, so I'm going to cool it. What would you say to them?
If you can be happy by cooling it, then go for it.
Right. Really.
But what I'll say is you're just leaving a lane open for somebody else. And if you're okay with that, then okay. Like I'm not here to tell somebody how to be happy or how not to be happy, right? No one should listen to me by all means. I am not a therapist, and I am not your parents, right? But what I do think about a lot of times is not about me today. Okay? I work for me in the future. Right? I have a baby now. Yeah, I kind of work for her. If I'm being totally honest, I get a little bit, right? My wife, sure, a little bit. But the person I care about the most is myself in 2030. Like I think about Ryan 2030, probably an unhealthy amount, because before I know it, I'm going to be there. Because 10 years ago, I wasn't on a TV show. I was hand modeling to pay my bills. I was freaking out. I thought I was going to get out of real estate. I was moving home to Colorado, and then my life changed in an instant. And that was 10 years ago. Okay, 10 and a half, let's say. So before I know it, it's going to be 2030. And I want to do everything I possibly can today to make sure that guy's life is fucking awesome. I want him to be able to go back in time to 2021 Sirhan and say, dude, you came out of that pandemic swinging. I know it was tough. I know it was crazy. I know you blew up your life. You started your own real estate company. You wrote a book with a title called Big Money Energy, you crazy asshole. But guess what? It all worked out, right? Like that's what I'm working for. And I think anyone who says, well, I did it. Okay, limited success. Let's move on. Don't think about yourself today because you're taking a break in the present, right? You got to work to take a break in the future. And then really, 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 really earn it. And if you're happy, right, then God love you.
By the way, that's one of my favorite answers in the history of the show. Like literally, that's one of my favorite. Everyone should be thinking right now, you 2030, and don't dilute yourself into thinking you're happy now if you're really not. Now, if you are, wonderful, right? But that's one of my favorite answers. Also, so honest. My favorite person is me.
But it's like, listen, it's, and I think that there is, for any entrepreneur out there, right? Anyone who's listening to this, okay, is somebody who wants to do a little bit better in life, wants to do a little bit more, wants to make a little bit more money, right? Wants to learn a little bit more. No one who's okay with the couch is listening to this podcast right now because it's just to stress the fuck out of them, okay?
You're right.
So everyone who's listening, I think wants more, and that's exciting. Like that's what life allows us. And it's also the future. Like it's the 2020s. Imagine if it was the 1950s. Like just talk to any old person, talk to your parents, your grandparents, if you're so lucky to still have them. Say, what were your opportunities when you got out of school? And they're going to give you like 3 answers, right? Like you got to make things relative. And the problem we have now is we are overwhelmed with opportunity, and we don't know which direction to go in. So we don't end up picking a lane, or we do pick a lane, and we're so obsessed with that lane, and then we're devastated when the lane ends. We're like, oh, well, that's it. I'm not driving anymore. Lane over. Lane. It's like, no, that was me acting in the city. When As the World Turns killed me off on the rooftop, when my grandmother stabbed me in the heart. That's real. That was a lane ending, but I didn't like get out of the car, call it quits. Said, all right, this is what I want to do my whole life. You know what? No problem. I'm going to take a right, and I'm going to go find a different lane. Yeah. Let me figure this out. Right? Let me just figure it out.
And usually in hindsight too, brother, like you look back on your life and like some of those previous lanes you were in sort of prepare you ironically for the new lane. Like your acting background sure has not hurt with you being on a reality show about your real life, your presence on camera, you'll be able to communicate energy, transfer, right? I mean, it was all in hindsight, if you look back, sort of leading to this road, as long as you, so to speak, walk down those roads when they were presented to you.
Dude, it is, luck is when hard work meets talent, right? It's, it's not something that is guaranteed for everybody, but I think hard work trumps talent when talent doesn't work hard. And everything that I put into my theater training, like I was in theater camp when I was, in the summers, and it's like the one thing I actually really, really liked doing. And then I threw it all away because I ran out of money, but then it circled back to me, and I got in front of a camera and I saw all these other real estate agents who were like, oh, they're awkward and weird. And it's like, wait a minute. I know what these people want. I know what I got to do, right? I know how to look at people. I know how to listen to people. I know how to breathe. I know how to give them what they want. Let me see if this works.
Hey, it's Ed Mylett. I just wanted to thank you for being here, and I would ask you to please subscribe to the show. If you just click the subscribe button here, I would really appreciate it. It helps the show grow so we can get even more successful guests on the program to help you. At the same time, if you're subscribed, you're going to get access to the programs before anybody else in the world gets access to them. So if you would, click subscribe right here. Thanks so much. I'm fired up about today's show because we're getting right into what it takes to win. And that is this. Write this down. One more. See, I accepted a long time ago I wasn't the smartest, the best looking, the fast enough, with the best background, the most connections. I didn't have any of those things. What I could control was my work ethic. You've heard me speak many times about outworking everybody, but I think that just feels good when we hear it, but most people don't take it seriously. If you think that I have a little bit of success in my life, I can tell you what I attribute it to. Yes, self-confidence, yes, mindset, visualization, goals, all the things I talk about all the time. Listening skills, influence, energy transfer, how to be happier, all of that stuff applies. When you get to winning, for me, it's come down to maxing out. And what maxing out means is you do one more at least than you think you're capable of. So when you're done, whatever you're doing, whether it's at the gym or phone calls or meetings or in sports, one more shot, one more throw, one more swing of the golf club or the baseball bat, the separator is for the winners, they do one more. I'm addicted to one more. And so I want your mantra going forward to be one more. What does that look like if we're working out? That means when we're in the gym and we say, I'm going to do 5 sets of 10, I'm crazy. Like I'm a psycho because I want to win. I want to be somebody. I want to separate. I want to compete. And the way I do that isn't with my giftedness, because I wasn't born with a bunch of gifts. And I think gifts are crap. I think for the most part, gifted people struggle in life because things come easy to them. I like that things haven't come easy for me in my life. I like that I don't have natural talents in every area. And maybe you like that about you too. Maybe you've looked at yourself all your life and thought, man, I don't have that natural beauty or that natural talent or this gift for creativity or intellect or humor. I don't have any of those things. But what I got is I will outwork you. And so at the gym, one of the things I focus on, they say it's 5 sets of 10. When I'm at 10, I go one more, bam, 11.
If I'm running on the treadmill and it's a 45-minute run, I never finish at 45. I always go one more minute, 46. If I'm at the office and I'm supposed to make 25 phone calls that day, when I'm at the end of the day, I always do one more. If I've got meetings, I always do one more. My mantra for 3 decades in business has been one more. Why? Because we get out of life what we think we deserve. And I'm the kind of guy that I know when you do 45 minutes on the treadmill and I do 46, I deserve to be fitter. I know that when I'm lifting weights and I watch you do 5 sets of 10, and every single time I do one more. When it's a set of 5, I do 6. When it's a set of 8, I do 9. When it's 45 on the treadmill, I do 46. When it's supposed to be 20 phone calls, I make 21. When it's supposed to be an 8-hour workday, I work 9. Whatever it is, I always do one more. And what that does is it makes me eventually think I'm doing things other people aren't willing to do, so I should get things other people aren't going to get. And if you go to the root of the things I believe philosophically about winning, the people that win, the great athletes that I coach, when I watch the really gifted golfer and the one who actually wins, the gifted golfer, they do what they're supposed to do. You'd never know they weren't working hard. It's not like people don't work hard. Everybody works hard. That's a given now. But what's the separator to where you become the maxed out version of you? See, the gifted golfer, they hit their 100 balls because they're supposed to. But the not so gifted one that ends up winning, they hit 101 or 110 or 120. I watch them on the driving range and you can hear them say, one more, one more. What's the difference between Kobe Bryant and other gifted NBA players when he played, or Michael Jordan when they played, or right now Kevin Durant, people tell me, or Steph Curry? They're constantly, when everyone else is done shooting in the gym, they say one more. Larry Bird was legendary for one more, one more. The people that would throw the passes to him, the ball guys in practice, say, he always wants more, he always wants more. The great hitters that I know, the Mike Trouts in MLB, they're gifted, but they just take a little more. They take that extra batting practice, that extra session. They're always doing extra. That's the separator. Like, you can learn all this stuff. You can digest all the tactics and information that I give out, but if you're not willing to do one more, eventually there's a part of you that says, maybe I don't deserve it. I'm just doing what everybody else is doing, and that's not good enough. It's not even good enough to do more than everybody else. It's your maxed out level. It's one more of everything. And so whether that's a phone call, an email, a text, an appointment, one more time you tell your spouse you love them. One more time you go in and kiss your children goodnight. One more hug of somebody. One more phone call. One more everything. I want your theme to be one more. Have I said that enough times for you today? So what's that really look like in application? Well, the second thing it does for you is you actually do more reps of whatever it is you're doing. And when we do more repetitions, we get better. And when we do more repetitions, we're more productive. So number one is the psychology part. If you're someone who's always doing things other people aren't willing to do, you always max out, you always go to the next level, you convince yourself you deserve to win. You can take low self-esteem, low identity, low confidence, and change it over time by building this habitual addiction to doing one more, this obsession of one more. All the greats do one more and all the average don't. It's not that the average don't work hard. It's not that the average at your company, it's not that they don't work hard. They probably work pretty hard. But do they always do extra? Do they always do one more? Do they always do 10 more if they need to? Do they always get after it? The other part of it, number two, is you just get better because of the reps. You're just doing more of something, you get better. You get stronger. You become a better phone caller when you make one more phone call every day. You become a better communicator when you do one more meeting every single day. You get better at coordination in your sport or at the gym by just doing more reps. Yes, you get better. So that's the second layer. But the third one is you stack the odds in your favor. See, for me, I want the odds that I'm going to win to increase. The larger numbers we play in life in every area, more is always better. People tell you, more isn't always better. And almost everything, more is better, just so you know. And almost everything. People who tell you more isn't better in most things are lazy, and they try to justify their own weakness. Don't let people who are justifying their own weakness convince you that you working hard, you doing more isn't the pathway to your success. People say, well, you got to work smarter, not harder. That's a lie, because everybody who wins works smarter. The separator is who works harder. And by the way, we become smarter through working harder. All the new revelations, all the breakthroughs, all the new discoveries always come when you're doing one more. Always come through more repetitions. You find new ways, new strategies, new words, new keys by higher repetitions. So even if you believe working smarter is more important, you will become smarter by doing more. So if you work 300 days a year, let's just say 300 days a year, that's 300 more phone calls every single year. Over 5 years, that's 1,500 more contacts. 1,500 more contacts. Just think about that just for a second. Over 30 years, that's 9,000 more contacts. What are the odds the person who makes 9,000 more contacts or even 300 more a year are going to win? You give me two average people that walk in a room. Same ability, same skills, same backgrounds, same product. One of them makes 300 more contacts a year than the other one. Who's going to win? We know. How about over 5 years? One of them makes 1,500 more contacts over 5 years. Who's going to win? Over a lifetime, 30 years of work, one makes 9,000 more contacts. Who's going to win? You stack the odds in your favor. Never mind the person who'd made the 9,000 more contacts is better. They've got more reps. They've got more confidence. They believe they deserve to win. They just have 9,000 more opportunities. How about a golfer? One of them makes 300 more swings a year. And that's just one more swing a day. Right? And over 5 years, 1,500 more, 9,000 over a lifetime. Who's more likely to win? So you pick anything you want. You begin to stack the odds in your favor. How about at the gym? If every day you went 1 more minute in your cardio, so it's supposed to be 45, you do 46. Do you know what that starts to do to you? You start knowing you're different. You start knowing you obliterate standards. You start knowing you can break through. When you break through an artificial barrier like 45 minutes, you do one more. It sets a catalyst for your entire day. It sets a syntax. It sets a mindset for the rest of your life. Never mind the fact that if you do 300 more minutes, which is 9,000 more over your lifetime, who's going to be more fit? So you begin to stack these things and your entire life changes. This is what I like to call compound pounding. Most people underestimate what time can do when backed up with massive activity. Right as I'm speaking to you, I'm looking out at the ocean right now. And there's a massive rock formation, and you can see the rivets in the rocks. And what caused those rivets in the rocks was compound pounding of the ocean hitting that rock over and over and over again. Over and over, compound pounding against that rock. And over time, that ocean breaks the rock down. Over time, where you can see the breakdown in a rock that water does hitting it. Think about that over time. Not one time when the water hits it, not 2 times, not 5 times. When you add up years and years and years of that water hitting the rock, it breaks it down. And that's like getting through to your dream. You have to be like that water hitting the rock I'm staring at right now, that over time, that compound pounding breaks down the barriers, breaks down the obstacles, breaks down anything in your way of getting to your dream. So I'm sold out on all the strategies and tactics that I teach you. But what I believe in completely is the power of compound pounding. And here's the crazy thing about most people. They will give up on their dream before the compounding has been allowed to kick in. So they'll work at it and they'll work at it and they'll work at it and they don't see the breakthrough. But what they don't understand is that rock was getting ready to break if you just keep pounding against it. But because most people don't see the evidence, see, if you watch that water hit that rock over 1 day, you're going to see no difference. 2 days, no difference. 5 days, no difference. Maybe even a year, there's no difference. Maybe even 5 years. But you have the compound pounding of every wave hitting that rock over and over again. There's an inevitability to the breakdown of the rock. That's true of your goals and dreams as well. There's an inevitability to success. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we adopt one more, when we adopt compound pounding. Do you know the kind of confidence you begin to have when you just accept in your life that I am going to be relentless, I'm always going to do extra, and you accept the fact that all things break down over time. All the barriers will go away, all the obstacles will go away, everything in your way will go away if you keep after it over an extended period of time. Most people overestimate what they can do in a year. They do. They set up goals for a year and they overestimate where they're going to get to. And they dramatically underestimate what they can do in a decade. And the reason for that is most people don't understand the power of compound pounding. So I want you to accept today that you're going to be relentless, that you're going to keep coming, that you're like a dripping faucet. You're like those waves hitting the rock. Other people are going to get slowed down. Other people are going to take a break. Other people are going to flinch. Other people are going to cool it. Other people are going to believe they've made it. Or maybe some people are going to believe they can't make it. But you're going to be relentless. You're going to be repetitious. You may not be the fastest. You may not be the smartest. You may not be the strongest. You may not be the most beautiful. You may not have the most articulate thoughts and ideas in the world. But what you got is compound pounding. What you got is one more. And when they get weak, you just keep company. When they flinch, you blow their doors off. That's how you win in life, is you keep getting after it and keep getting after it until the job gets done. So a lot of people can be excited for a day. They can be excited for a month. Some people can be excited for a year or 2 or 3 years. But the winners, they stay excited as long as it takes to get the job done. They keep after it until the job gets done. They never stop. They're always after it. And that's where their strength comes from. That's where their confidence comes from, is knowing their capacity to keep coming at you, and that all your competition's going to get weak. They're going to get tired. They're going to surrender. They're going to give in. They're going to think they made it. They're going to take a break. They're going to cool it, and you just keep coming. It's just nature. Just like the nature of the ocean against that rock, it's just nature that you run down your dream, that you knock down your dream. I want you to implement all the things that I teach on Max Out, all the tactics, all the strategies, but more than anything, I want you to buy into the fact of an inevitability of you winning, that it's inevitable, that it might not be a year or 2 years or 3 years, but you're going to stay excited and you're going to keep doing one more until the job gets done. Today's message is very simple. You can win. You should win, and you will win. I want you to feel this. You will win if you just keep coming. You keep getting after it. You keep doing one more. You can control this. You can't control all the exterior things in your life, people's attitudes, how they treat you, who cancels on you, who changes their mind, who hates on you, who lets you down. But you can control this. You can always go 46 instead of 45. You can always go 11 instead of 10. You can always make the next phone call. Always do one more meeting. Always do one more. Always, always, always. And I promise you, you will knock down that rock that's in between you and your dream and make them come true. Today's really simple. You're going to knock down whatever that rock is that's in between you and your dream. You're going to keep after it. You're going to be relentless. You're not going to give in. You're going to be the person who stays excited until the entire job gets done, until that dream is real. And you know long term, all these other people, they're going to flinch, they're going to get weak, and you won't. You've adopted a max out mindset, and I want to remind you today to stay connected with me. I want you to win. Hope you can feel it today. I want to break it down to its most simple form, which is that you use nature to your advantage. You use the force of you, the force of effort, the force of sustained effort over an extended period of time to wear out the obstacles in front of you and your dream. I want you to feel the confidence that comes with that. I'm telling you, look at me, listen to me. You're going to do this. You're going to win if, and it's a big if you'll just adopt it. It ought to be written everywhere. One more, max out, everywhere you can put it. It's inevitable. It's not if anymore. It's just when.
The name of today's show, what I want you to write down, I think this will just, potentially really serve you, is write this down. Success requires no apologies. Failure permits no alibis. Success requires no apologies. Failure permits no alibis. Where'd I get that from? It's not mine. It's actually out of the book, Think and Grow Rich, that I've just referenced earlier. One of the original versions. I'm holding up my dear friend Robin Sharma sent to me. And so that is not my quote. I can't stand when people use my content and quotes and don't give me credit. That's not my quote. That's out of Think and Grow Rich. But the theme of today is that, listen, success requires no apologies and failure permits no alibis. We can't be making alibis. And so how do we create change in our life? How do we make moves through this difficult times? Because no matter what time you're listening to this, it'll be trying. There's always things to overcome. That's what life's about. One of the things in Think and Grow Rich that I love is in the book. This is so profound, and I hope this gives you hope, that in the book, he talks about going through adversity, going through trials and tribulations. And he ends up saying in the book that if you can get to the other side of these trials, if you don't quit, that you get introduced to your other self. Your other self. And so what if it is that all of the tragedies, trials, tribulations, difficulties in our lives are all set up there so that on the other side of it, there's another version of us. On the other side of it, we get introduced to our other self. I'm 51 years old when this comes out, and I must tell you that I've been introduced to many different versions of me. And the only way I got to those versions of me was to have to go through something difficult that tried me, that pushed me, that caused me to question myself, doubt myself, almost give in, almost resist. If you think about it for you, the things you have achieved in your life, where you are today, this version of you has been put together, has been developed, has been created because of the things you learned, the things you went through, the lessons you gained through difficult times. So when you're hitting these difficult times, just remember on the other side of this time, whatever it is for you, is your other self. How beautiful is that? And when you step back and look at one's entire life, even if you have children and you all were a child at one point, think about the difficult things and you got introduced to that other version of you. I remember going to high school so scared. There was this whole thing when I was going to high school, they would put the freshmen in trash cans, and I didn't know anybody. And, was anybody going to like me? But the person who walked in my freshman year of high school, I think you'll agree, a totally different person walked out my senior year. I got introduced to my other self. And then when I started my business journey, there's one guy that started, and then after the first trial and tribulation I pushed through, I got introduced to another self of me, and then another self, and then another self, and then another self. In relationships, you've been introduced to other selves of you once you've gotten through them or learned from them. And so what you're going through right now, the beauty of it is it's preparing this other self, this better version of you. And you got to remind yourself of this because it's so easy not to want to outlast the temporary. I did a big, long coaching call with the Arte Syndicate on this. And I'm not going to get into what I covered there. I'm going to cover different things today. But I just want you to think about this for a second. Without it, it's just you all the way through life. There's no change. There's no growth. So this trial, this thing that you're going through, or maybe just this thing you're trying to accomplish, maybe it doesn't even feel trying. Maybe you're just trying to accomplish something that's difficult, right? The other self is on the other side of that. And I just want to tell you, chase that version of you, chase that person, embrace it. And when you see this adversity coming at you, right? See it for what it really is. It's this introduction to the new you waiting for you on the other side of it. I love one of the things, I'm going to read to you out of Napoleon Hill's book a little bit right here. But he says, and again, a lot of this stuff was written for, back in the day where he would say men instead of people. But he says, if the first plan which you adopt does not work successfully, replace it with a new plan. If this plan fails to work, replace it, and in turn with it another, and so on until you find a plan which does work. Right here is at the point at which the majority of people meet with failure because of their lack of persistence in creating new plans to take the place of the old ones which fail. The most intelligent man living cannot succeed in accumulating money nor in any other undertaking without plans which are practical and workable. And his point in the chapter was, this is where most people quit. This is where most people give in. They surrender at the sign of adversity rather than pivot, rather than innovate, rather than create a new plan. They give in. And what costs you when you give in is you rob the world and you of this other self. Those are my words, not him in this case. But that's what gets robbed. And quitting becomes a habit. It's habitual. When you quit on one thing, you'll quit on other things. And so finish, adapt all the time in your life. I want to share something with you. Why do we get so worked up? Let me share something with you. You have emotions that you're familiar with. Okay? And some of these emotions serve you and some of them don't serve you. It's called your emotional home is what I call it. And oftentimes in our lives, we will find a way to get that emotion we're addicted to. Our heart and our emotions move towards what we are most familiar with. I'm going to cover this in 2 places today for you. And I hope that this is one of these life-changing shows where you're like, yeah, man, I'm glad he didn't interview somebody today. This is better. So I have to say this to you. You have an emotional home. And it's important to take an inventory of what is that home, because you find a way to get it every week, whatever those emotions are. They could be peace, joy, ecstasy, passion, right? All those great emotions that you could have. And by the way, they aren't good and bad. Just some serve us and some don't. Then there's other ones: pain, fear, anxiety, worry, depression, frustration, anger. You all know people, as I described those emotions, you thought of different people, didn't you? When I said anger, you thought of someone who's regularly angry. When I said fearful or depressed, you thought of somebody. Maybe you thought of you. And so if you have this primary emotion that you're getting on a regular basis, you find a way to get it, don't you? You do. No matter what's going on, you find a way at some point during your week to get your fear. Why? Because it's familiar. And we move towards what's familiar. This is how human beings are. So the reason we want to go through difficulties is because if at the other end of that we can get another self, maybe we can get another emotion. Because self is really emotions. What you really don't want is a jet or cash. You want how you think that will make you feel. What you really don't want is just a relationship. It's how you think the relationship will make you feel. You don't just want to win that contest you're in right now. It's how you think it'll make you feel. So what you're chasing is the emotions. See, I know people with absolutely no money who feel rich. I know a bunch of people with a lot of money who feel broke, right? So what we're really chasing is our emotions. So for me, how do you do that? You become very intentional about what they are. You become intentional. My primary emotion I'm chasing right now that I can experience anytime I want, but I don't have to chase it. That word's probably not well said. I can experience anytime I want because it exists within me is peace. And when I'm not getting peace, I get intentional about seeking it. I'm not going to do things in my life anymore that on the other end of it can't acquire me more peace. I may lack some as I do it, but I'm going to get more of it on the other side of it. Starting to become intentional. And I'll share with you, we all have emotions that don't serve us. We all do. One of mine is chaos. I love chaos. Isn't that interesting? I love chaos. I've just realized this as an adult. Like, I always create chaos in my life. Why? I thrive. I always say, I thrive in chaos because I do. I'm familiar with it. Why do I always create chaos? Even when things are great, it's like, nope, I got to do this. I got to do that. Create a chaotic state. I create chaos around me. I've become aware of this. Why? Because chaos is familiar to me. Why is chaos familiar to me? Because to some extent in my childhood, it was chaotic. Most of you know that my dad was an alcoholic, greatest guy in the world, sober for 35 years after that. But in my early upbringing, it was chaotic. It was unstable. I didn't know, is he coming home? Is he not coming home? What mood's he going to be in? Are mom and dad going to stay married? You know, all those kinds of things. And it was chaotic. And I became familiar with chaos. And so I find a way in my given week or my month or my day to find chaos, don't I? And I do. Anybody that knows me knows that's true. And I thrive in it. Chaos, by the way, can be used positively. Chaos has caused me to become wealthy. Chaos has caused me to not want to be overweight and to be fit. Sometimes that chaos, I learned to thrive in it. But you have to ask yourself, and I had to ask myself, do I want to live all my life in chaos? No. And then I got intentional. If chaos doesn't serve me that way, what emotions do I want? I want more joy. I want more laughter. I want more peace. And so I'm intentional about getting it. And I'm aware when I'm starting to generate chaos unintentionally. And that awareness for me, that awareness causes it to lose its power over me. So in your case, I would ask you, what emotion is your emotional home that you get the most regularly? Is it really joy? Is it really peace? Is it really ecstasy, passion, right? Or do you get a little bit familiar with worry, anger, frustration, melancholy, whatever you want to call it, fear, right? And once you know that, ask yourself, what are the emotions I would want to experience on a regular basis? And get intentional about them and become aware when you're doing the ones you don't think serve you. All right. And then ask yourself this, what would I have to think or believe in order to generate that emotion? Right? Because a lot of times we have thoughts that don't serve us. Thoughts generate emotions, right? It's not an event that generates the quality of our life. There's an event, then there is our perception of the event, our thought about it, which creates the emotion. So it's not the events of our lives. You can be going through a very difficult time and have peace. You can go through a very difficult time and feel strong. It's being intentional about it. And so I would challenge you to begin to think about, what would I need to think? What do I normally think that causes me? And I'm going to tell you in a minute. What do I normally think that causes me to get this emotion that creates stress for me? And what would I need to think in order to get the ones I want when the same stimulus happens? So in Think and Grow Rich, he says there are 6 basic fears. By the way, in The Power of One More, I show you how to overcome these fears with daily strategies. So it's not just the thought, it's the action you would take. I mirror the thought in congruency with the action. And that's why The Power of One More is such a really unique book. Having said that, these are the 6 basic fears according to Napoleon Hill, and they're really interesting. He says, there are 6 basic fears with some combination of which every human suffers at one time or another. Most people are fortunate if they do not suffer from the entire 6. Named in the order of their most common appearance, they are, this is interesting, in sequence. The number 1 fear is the fear of poverty. And just process that. Do you have the fear of poverty? Do you have the fear that whatever you're going through right now, you're going to be broke? You're going to fear that you're going to run out of money, that you're not going to eat, or whatever it might be. The fear of poverty. Number 2, the fear of criticism. Right? By the way, these are the bottom, not the top, excuse me. The fear of criticism. Do you have any of that? The fear of ill health. Okay, so those are the bottom three, not the top three. Bottom three. Fourth fear, the fear of loss of love of someone. In other words, someone you love will no longer love you. Okay? 5, the fear of old age, getting old and missing your prime, missing your moment, missing your life. And then lastly, the fear of death. And so those are the 6 fears: poverty, criticism, bad health, loss of the love of someone, old age, and death. And usually, I think you'll find that when you're experiencing stress and anxiety, it's born out of one of those fears. And I know you're sitting there going, Ed, this is damn good. Thank you for doing the show today. I hope you are. And if you do feel that, share it. Fastest growing show in the world, share it. So I'm aware of the fears that I have. And that's why success requires no apologies. I'm not worried about criticism. And failure permits no alibis. There are no alibis. There are no excuses. There just aren't any. And you go, but Ed, you don't understand. I do have this excuse. I do have this issue. I do have this situation that isn't fair for me. By the way, you're probably right. And if you think it, you're definitely right. What you have to ask yourself is, does it serve you to believe that? Or what would you need to believe in spite of that? If you say, well, hey, I started too late, I don't have enough money. What if you started to think, man, what a story this is going to be that I started with no money? Or you know what? I'm a particular group of people that's marginalized and it's more difficult for me. I would just submit to you that isn't the story going to be sweeter when you do win? Isn't it going to even be more inspiring when you do win? Isn't it going to move more people? Isn't your test going to be your testimony? Whatever this thing is, that is the alibi that you have in your life, whatever it is. Someone hurt me, this overcame, I'm in this situation, you don't understand my health situation. Listen, if it serves you to believe that, keep believing it. But as your friend and your coach and a mentor to you and someone who loves you and cares about you, I would say this does not serve you, even if it's true. Even if it's true. What would you need to believe about it that now gives you power instead of kryptonite? And you begin to ask yourself these questions. So, you're going to show up. So that's one thing. You're going to show up 20 years from now somewhere. The question is where? And what I would submit to you is that one of the ways out of difficult times is huge, bold, God-sized dreams. Like, what is your huge, bold, the one you're embarrassed to tell people, the huge, bold, God-sized dream in your life? And the more of it you begin to project into that dream state of what you want in your life, the more it gives you the inspiration. If your dreams are bigger than the adversity, you'll get through it. But the minute that adversity, those emotions are bigger than where you're going, bigger than your dreams, you're toast. You got to reevaluate that. You got to look at it. You got to say, wait a minute, what's my big dream? What's my big goal? What's that big emotion? What's that thing? What's that place? What's that person? What's that contribution? Whatever it might be. And you got to begin to obsess about it, because what I said earlier is true. Your mind moves towards what it's most familiar with. So if you're most familiar with your fears, those 6 fears, or these emotions you don't want, or your problems, or your setbacks, or the things that are not in your favor, then you're going to move towards them. Let me say that to you again. You may be right about this adversity. You may be right about your circumstance. You may be right about all that. But does it serve you to believe it? Because the way the mind works is it moves towards what it's most familiar with. And the reason some people are successful and most aren't is the successful people have the ability to begin to program into their mind the things they want, the dreams they have, over and over and over, because they know this to be true. They belong in their dreams. Their dreams are not some hallucination. They're not a joke. God gave you those dreams as a glimpse, as a preview of what's possible in your life. And the more you understand, these dreams don't just come from me. How do I have these dreams? Where'd they come from? They come from God in your life, or whatever you believe about that. I'm a Christian. I believe they come straight from Jesus, straight from God. But whatever your faith is, the universe, whatever you believe, they come from outside of you, and they're not a joke. They're a preview of what's possible. And the more you move towards those thoughts, those dreams in faith, boldly, strong, and not towards the 6 fears you have or this circumstance. And I'm not talking about don't deal with reality. I'm not saying, I already said, you need to pivot. You need to course correct. You need a better plan. Clearly, you need a better plan. But what you don't need is to be moving towards the thoughts that don't serve you, because you keep getting them, don't you? You keep drawing the circumstances into your life that don't serve you because your mind moves you towards what you're familiar with. Please, sister, I love you. Please, brother, listen to what I'm saying.
Begin to feed these thoughts to you regularly and begin to take the actions in congruency with them. And when you begin to think and act in congruency, you become a force in the world that is unstoppable eventually, if you can outlast the temporary, not right away. See, there's two things people lack. The Bible says where there is no vision, the people perish. People lack vision, but oftentimes when they get a vision, the other thing that they suffer from is depth perception issues. They think it's further than it is. They think they're further away than they really are. And so they pace themselves and they act like it and they don't let their mind go there regularly. And so they constantly stay in a perpetual state of being far from it. The premise of my book, The Power of One More, is very simple when you get it. And it's this: you're a lot closer to your dreams than you think. You're a lot closer to these emotions, these feelings, that life, that other self than you think you are. And let me tell you what you are. You're one decision away, one possible meeting, one relationship, one thought, one emotion, one strategy in my new book away from changing it. You're a lot closer than you think. So stop thinking it's so far away and stop thinking about all the things all the time that don't serve you. Right? By the way, what is thinking? Ed, how do I think better? What's a thought? A thought is the process of asking yourself a question and answering it. So ask yourself better questions and you will have better thoughts and better answers. So if you do have this detriment, that's just this thing that's just, it's a hindrance and you know it's a hindrance and it's a challenge or you're going through something, right? That's okay. The question is, ask yourself a better question about it. Instead of saying, that's why I'm going to lose. It's, hey, how can I overcome this? What are the answers to this? Who are people like me that have won? What is my story going to look like when I win? How's it going to feel when I get there? What's the tactic or strategy that I need to implement to overcome this that other people don't, but I'm going to because I deserve to get there because these dreams are a preview of who I'm supposed to be. So get these familiar thoughts, get these familiar emotions. Know that all pain is temporary. Outlast the temporary.
Speaking of emotions, dealing with failure. It's part of being an athlete.
Yeah.
And I think back to just watching a lot of football. Your rookie year was not gorgeous.
Yeah.
So most people that listen to my show may not even be football fans, but I'm interested to hear. Why don't you describe it a little bit? Tell them what happened your rookie year, which was not, you weren't winning a Super Bowl that year.
No.
And
No.
and how you dealt with a lot of the rejection and failure, criticism that came with it, and probably even to this day you get criticism, people saying things about you that aren't real favorable. How do you deal with that?
No, it's my rookie year was, I guess when I first got criticized or had to deal with that was at Oklahoma. I was trying to run an offense that just didn't fit my skills, and so it was a real challenge. And OU, of course, is a hotbed for football, and we were pretty good at the time. And I was probably holding us back just because we were trying to run this wishbone offense, and it just wasn't for me. So that was the first time I really had to deal with it. I broke my leg, and then I went to UCLA and ended up going to Dallas as the number 1 overall pick. But I went to the worst team in football, and then my rookie year, new head coach, college coach, bringing in a lot of different players every week. We really did not have much of a fighting chance. I was 0-11 as a starter.
Crazy.
And it was tough. I took a beating. We weren't very good up front.
0-11, everyone.
0-11. And so there were games where we should have lost based on how I played. And then there were other games where I thought I played pretty well, and we'd have a lead with 30 seconds left in the game and somehow we'd lose it,
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, man, what does it take to win a game in this league? I mean, this is
A
brutal.
Game. Right.
And but I never lost confidence. And I think the reason was I had a quarterback coach by the name of Jerry Rome, and he had played in the NFL, and he refused to let me get down on myself. And there were days when it was hard. It was hard to be positive. It was hard to be upbeat. It was hard to believe that good things were going to happen. But he was always there, being my champion, and he was in my corner. And so fortunately, my very first game, my second season, we won. And so I got that monkey off my back. And then over time, we slowly got better and better. And then, of course, we won the Super Bowl in my fourth year and had great success. But, yeah, I just think that –
does criticism hurt you, even now?
Well, nobody likes it.
Yeah.
It's easy. I hear people say, hey, I don't pay any attention to criticism. I have a hard time believing that anyone just can totally brush it off. But if you get criticized enough, you know, and I'm now that I'm still in the public eye with the broadcasting and all that, you just learn that it's just part of it. You know, someone once told me that, hey, it's part of the, you know, comes with the dinner. And criticism just comes with the dinner. And you know, I'll read Twitter from time to time, and if you've called a game and you read Twitter, buckle up.
Oh my God.
I mean,
I can't even.
But some of it's pretty funny, and I laugh at most of it. But what I like, the reason I do it is because you know deep down if there's truth to those criticisms.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I try to evaluate myself objectively, and I don't dismiss that. I mean, I listen and then think, yeah, you know what? They're right.
Me too.
They're right. That
I do the
wasn't good
same.
enough.
I kind of dig some of it.
Yeah.
Some of it's ridiculous,
Yeah.
but some of it I'm like, you know what? I've heard this enough times. There's some validity to this.
That's right.
I do need to make that adjustment.
Yeah. And it's a bit of a wake up, and all that's good. So I don't mind it. I mean, I honestly don't mind it.
What
and
about-
even at the criticism, if you know deep down, like you've done your best and whatever it is, and then you just accept it and move on. And now, as you know, I mean, the critics, now everyone has a platform, so you get all the everyone gets criticized now. I mean, you just
we definitely don't lack feedback in this day and age. There's plenty of feedback. The other part of baseball, though, is that it's a failure-based game. I mean, like if you're really, really good and you're a great hitter, right? Yeah. You're successful. I mean, 30% of the time you're dealing with failure 70%. I actually think because I was an okay player and not like a great player like you, I actually think baseball did equip me for life in many ways because of all the failure. And you have a good saying for what failure is, and I want to give you the grace to share it with everybody. But to just talk about that part of baseball, failing, what failure means to you and what you did with it, because that's part of life too, but it's really pronounced in baseball.
Yeah. You know, failure's feedback. You know, at the end of the day, failure's feedback. Like you can, first off, in baseball and in life, if you start taking your failures personally, well, then you become the victim. Like, man, I just can't do it. And it's this guy's fault and this guy's fault. It's like, no, man, it's feedback. Yeah. What are we going to do with it? Yeah. You know, what are we going to do with the feedback that we just got? You know, are we going to run and hide, or are we going to run for it? Yeah. Right? Like, you know, like I always say, like the Navy SEALs, they feel gunfire, they run for it. Yeah. Like, who's doing that? Yeah. Like, and, you know, and you think of baseball, like, hey, man, failure's feedback, failure's information. You know, it's only a failure if you fail to learn. Harvey Dorfman used to tell me that. You know,
you ended up becoming a friend.
Incredible. A couple years into the big leagues, I called him. I just called him. I was 2003. I was like, I cannot end my career without not having met Harvey Dorfman to tell him what.
This is the guy who wrote the book that changed his life.
Yeah, The Mental Game of Baseball. Yeah. So I called him and I'm like, hey, Harvey, you know, my name's Sean Casey. I know who you are. You got a sweet swing. I'm like, oh, yeah. You know, sometimes you meet people like, this guy knows who I am. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I ended up working with Harvey, you know, and you know, one of the greatest stories was I remember I was in 2004, I was really having a great year. Probably like beginning of June, I was hitting like 390, which is like, you know, that's incredible, right? And I went a time was 0 for 12, right? Went 0 for 12, but I was like you said, 0 for 6 with 6 lineouts. I had probably 11 lineouts. I called Harvey one night, and what I loved about Harvey, he broke through your. He was like, dude, like, I kind of don't want to call me if you got something good, but if you don't, I'm gonna let you know. So I was like, I picked up the phone on this one. I was like, I think this is good. I think right. He answers the phone. He's down in North Carolina. Hey, hello. I'm like, hey, Harvey, it's Case. I was like, hey, bro, can I talk to you real quick? He's like, yeah. What do you got? I was like, man, I'm just grinding right now. 0 for my last 12. He's like, all right, break it down for me. What do you got your last 12 at bats? So I'm like, all right, you know, first at bat, rocket in the gap. Jim Edmonds, you know, makes a ridiculous play. Next one, it shot the first, you know, guy, you know. So I've had 12 at bats, but 11, you know, rockets. He's like, listen. He goes, your job, and he turns into like that, like crudgy old guy. Your job is to focus on the process. Your job is to make sure you take a deep breath every pitch to get ready for that next pitch. Your job is to hit the ball hard every time up. Sounds like you're doing your job. I'll talk to you later. He hung up on me. I was like, let's go. Because he knew you can't believe the failure. Yeah. You can't believe, you have to take the failure. You have to make the, and the adversity in baseball and life, make it, why don't you look forward and say, that's going to make me stronger.
Yes.
That's going to make me stronger. You know what I mean?
I always looked at it like if I were batting, like I was a leadoff hitter, so I try to take a lot of pitches for other guys too. I wanted to get as much info. Right. It's really interesting. The big leagues now, like that's not really the thing anymore. That leadoff guys can still strike out all the time.
Yeah.
Like I never wanted to strike out, but
I
would-
feel like it's going back that way though.
Well,
like,
you would know because
yeah,
we're going to talk about that in a
yeah.
minute. He's also a broadcaster for the MLB network, so
Yeah.
he's still very much involved. That's a whole other part of his life. But I would try to get information. But like if I did go 0 for 1, even if I grounded out to short the first at bat, I'm like, okay, he's trying to work me away. His breaking ball does this. He can't locate his changeup. Like I download information from the at bat. And I watched the World Series last night. We're recording this. The World Series is happening. Probably by the time it comes out, it may be over.
Right.
The big tall dude for Philadelphia 2 nights ago,
Alec Bohm.
he hit the home run.
Yeah, Alec Bohm.
Hit home run. And they said something to him, like they interviewed him during the game, and they said to him, "Hey, what did Bryce Harper say to you?" Because Bryce had come over and he said, "I'm not going to tell you what he said to me." But what had happened was Harper had actually got out the at bat before, but he downloaded from that failure feedback that he gave it to Bone, right? So that's part of what failure should be. When you miss a sales call, it's not like I suck. It's like, okay, what did I not say? Where did I miss? Did I not hear something? Where did we lose the energy? Where did I lose the connection? In parenting, when I've done stuff with my kids that haven't worked, I'm looking at the feedback. Like, how could I have said this differently? How could I have phrased it differently? When I walked in the room, was my physiology intimidating to my kids? Was I loving? Like, failure is feedback. I love that term, and baseball forces that on you. Because if you don't get feedback from your failure as a hitter or a pitcher, right, if you don't get feedback from that failure, you're not going to last very long. Right? You're going to have to figure that stuff out.
Can I tell you one just quick story?
Please.
When I go back to my rookie, it was my second year, my rookie year in the big leagues. I faced Randy Johnson for the first time. You know, you go back 6'11". You know, he's with the Diamondbacks at the time. You know, just throwing behind you. And
lefty on lefty.
Just lefty on lefty.
gas.
I was literally up there like, oh my God. I was like, if these are the pitchers in the big leagues, I'm going to be out of here soon,
luckily
right?
They weren't all like that.
It was incredible. So I remember going 0 for 4 with him with a couple punch outs. And I remember thinking, man, that's Randy Johnson. He's one of the best lefties ever. I got his baseball card. You know, that's where my mind was going. We faced Maddox a couple days later. He cars me up, slices and dices me 1-2. He, you know, 2-seamer at my hip. I've never seen that in my life. I was like, I think I screamed. I was like, ah! You know? They're like, strike 3.
That's so
right?
awesome.
So I remember having a conversation with myself, like, wow, I'm getting feedback here that I'm looking at these guys that I'm putting them too much on a pedestal. I got to get back to controlling the controllables of what I can do, right?
There you go.
So this is what I said. And I started to think, okay, what adjustment can I make here to not look out there at these great pitchers and think that they're so much better than me? So what I said was, I've been facing a pitching machine since I was 14 years old. As soon as it leaves those guys' hand, whether it's Randy Johnson, Greg Maddox, John Smoltz, I told myself mentally, it's now a pitching machine, right? I just have to be able to get my process so well that when the ball comes into an area over the plate, that I got to be ready to square it up. So whether it's leaving it at a 3/4 lefty that's 6'11", throwing 100 or 93 mile an hour slider,
very good.
If it comes across the plate, I still got a shot if I can control my controllables, if I can control me.
Yes.
So it becomes that me versus me game.
Your brother, I love this.
Do you agree with that?
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
See, guys, one of the things Sean's doing, we're going to talk about in a little bit, is he's got something called Think Like a Pro, where you're going to be able to start to get guys like him specifically, their insights on how to apply these things in life. Yeah. And what you just said is, like, anytime I've got something that overwhelms me, I try to get internal. What are the things that I can control? Even like when I'm speaking and there's like 15 speakers on an agenda. Oh, they're going to love this guy. Who's going up before me?
Right.
You know, I remember even when I played, I'd be worried about, even in college, like, oh, it's Friday night. I get their A starter. Who are they throwing tonight? Oh, I hope he's not a lefty, or, you know, whatever. Right?
Exactly.
And I started to, I go, no, the bottom line is when the ball leaves his hand, it's me and the ball.
It's
right?
you.
And I have a fighter, I won't say who, but he's fighting in the next few weeks, one of my UFC guys. And he sent me a voice note the other night because we couldn't reach you. And I'd say this to all of you to listen, just because I wish I knew everything I know about coaching top performers back when I was young, because they're human beings. And they actually have a lot of the same worries, anxieties, fears, insecurities that you have. They've just come up with processes and they get feedback from their failures. The thing Sean is saying is a fact. And so he says to me, he goes, here's the truth, bro. I'm scared. He said to me, I'm scared. I'm afraid. And I'm worried. This is the best opponent I've ever faced. And, you know, I'm just relying on my training and the things we talked about and some of the mental triggers. I give these guys different mental triggers and anchors that you did when you hit as well, that baseball players know about, that a lot of athletes don't. And I said back to him in the voice note, because we couldn't reach her, I said, hey, just remember this, man. He's scared too.
And he's about to face a badass man himself. And he's facing the best fighter he's ever fought in his life. So we can't control that, but we can control is what we feel internally. So just know this. Other people are afraid when they give a speech. Other people are worried. Other people are, when they're not sure they're going to make it. They're not sure. Just realize this, that like the things you think you suffer from that are just yours emotionally, your fears, your anxieties are human. And the top people, I'm talking about people that have run big countries, run big companies, that 12-year MLB studs, right? Like the best UFC fighters, the best boxers, the best putters I've worked with, the best golfers. They all have these thoughts that you have. Yeah. But they come up with coping mechanisms. They come up with things that they can play offense in their life. Yeah. They deal with failure better.
Maybe I'm wrong. You can correct me. It's 2016. Phil's going to win the U.S. Open. And I think you bogeyed the 16th hole. You come back, you par 17. Maybe I have my years wrong. I got a digit wrong. 2006. He bogeys 16, par 17. And if you par 18, you're probably going to win the U.S. Open. And you hit a bad tee shot. There's a series of events that, in hindsight, weren't great decisions potentially. I want to ask you about that. And I remember at the end of the round watching you. I've always rooted for you. I'm a left-handed golfer. The way you treat people, like most fans, I just root for you. And I remember physically in my body hurting for you, you know? And I remember you saying, I think you literally said, I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I did that. I think you actually referred to yourself that way. I want to know, what does it feel like to have a failure? All of us here, failure in a marriage, failure in a business, and we have to come back again. And you have an event like that happen. How did you come back? What were you thinking? How long did it take you to come back, etc.? Tell us about that.
So I lost 6 U.S. Opens where I finished second, and the Winged Foot was one I probably came closest. But there was another one I'd rather talk about, which was Marion in 2013, where I had a chance. I was tied for the lead or leading with 9 or 10 holes to go, and I ended up hitting a bad wedge on a short par 3, and I made bogey on a hole that you really needed to make birdie. I ended up losing by a shot or two to Justin Rose. And for the next week, I was really down because I was 43 years old. It was kind of my last chance one of my last chances, let's say, to win a U.S. Open. And I was really down after letting that one slide. And I went to a place with my family, spent about 7 to 10 days. And about the eighth or ninth day, it dawned on me that I'm playing really good golf. And even though I lost, I don't want to let this linger and carry on into my next performances, my next opportunities. And so I went to Europe and played in the Scottish and British Open, and it happened to be probably the best 2-week experience of my career. I ended up winning the Scottish Open, my first tournament win in Europe on links golf. I followed it up with winning the British Open at Muirfield, where I never really believed I would win the British Open the way I knew I was going to win the Masters or other majors. And so that was probably my greatest accomplishment. So I went from one of my toughest failures to my greatest accomplishment, meaning we can't let the failures hold us back. Yeah, it hurts, it stings, but we have to put it behind us and learn from those mistakes and not let that hold us back, because we have to refocus on what we want to accomplish, and we're all going to deal with setbacks and failures. And I've had a number of them, but I've also had a lot of successes that make up for it.
So are you one of these guys where, like, you savor these wins more than you lament the losses? I interviewed a lot of athletes that go, no, to be honest with you, some of these losses hurt more than the wins felt good. What's true for you?
I think that I certainly hate to lose more than I love to win, and that motivates me to work harder with the failures that I have, and it motivates me to practice harder so that I don't lose. It's not so much the great experience of winning that I thrive on. It's just that I hate to lose. But as I look back, I really try to cherish the positive moments that have happened in my career and appreciate and be grateful for having those moments, those memories. And I try not to dwell too much on the failures. But the one failure that I will look back on is the one that you mentioned in the 06 U.S. Open in Winged Foot. It wasn't the drive that really bothered me. I only hit 2 fairways out of 14 the whole day. It was the second shot, because my short game that week was better than it's ever been. It was the best short game week of my career. I averaged, I think, 3 or 4 fairways around, and yet I almost won the U.S. Open. So it was the second shot that I did not carve the 3-iron around the tree. I started a little too far left. It caught the limb and fell straight down. If I started a little bit further right and sliced it around that tree, and I had a fine lie. It came off of the corporate hospitality tent, but that grass was all matted down. My lie was fine. That 3-iron gets up by the green. I'm going to get that up and down. That was the best week of my short game. I would have made a 4. And the second shot was the one that I look back on.
That's interesting because I'm going to challenge you on that. I think you know that a lot of people thought the error was in trying to hit the 3-iron. Didn't people feel like you should have tried to lay up and just get up and down, or am I wrong about that? That they felt like
a lot of people probably thought that, but again, I'm able to see things that others aren't, and
Yes.
I had a eye, and all I have to do is just hit a high cut 3-iron around the tree. It's going to end up by the green somewhere, probably on the green. It wasn't a hard shot. I'm going to pull it off 7 out of 10 times, 8 out of 10 times. It's going to end up by the green, if not on. And then my short game takes over, and I get up and down, win the U.S. Open. So I pushed it about 2 yards too far to the left, and it caught the limbs.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. I love being in that moment with you, because I'm never going to be in that moment in sports, right? So, and most of us aren't going to be.
You tried. So you're a waiter, you got nothing really going on, and you're trying things to get it going. I think most people are like in fear, like, oh, I'm going to fail in front of my family or whatever. You just kept putting stuff out there and trying to find your space and your niche, right?
You will fail.
Right.
You have to fail.
Let's just get that out on the table first.
I'll be honest with you. Failing to me is kind of the point of trying stuff. Succeeding would be great. I mean, I love success.
Which you've done now.
But success is so much more foreign than failure. For me, when it comes to trying stuff, failure is so much more common. You better get used to it.
Very good.
You better get used to failure. I read Mark Cuban's little thin book. I don't know if you know that book. It's like 70 pages. No. He said something in that book that really inspired me to just keep swinging over and over again. He said, I might mess it up. I'm going to paraphrase. He goes, if you want to be an all-star baseball player, you got to hit 3 out of 10 pitches for an entire season. You want to be a Hall of Fame baseball player, you got to hit 4 out of 10 pitches. It's only one difference.
God, that's so
out
good.
of 10.
That's so good.
You want to be a Hall of Fame business guy, you need to hit 1 pitch ever.
Oh, wow.
Out of all the swings you take.
That's really good.
And I was like, man, 1 swing has to connect out of all the swings you take? That's when I started really chopping away. Jay-Z for Dummies failed. I tried to get my own show on the Oprah Winfrey Network when she launched that. Botched the audition. I mean, just stuttered and sweated through the audition. The video did terribly, but out of that came happyisthenewrich.com, which I really latched onto because in California, when I lived here, I was broke. $0, 0 cents. At 30 years old, by the way. It wasn't like I was 18 years old.
Wow.
I was a full-grown man at this point.
Wow.
And I had no money.
Okay.
But I said, I better learn to, enjoy my life with no money, or I'm definitely not going to enjoy it with money.
I love that, by the way.
That's a truism of
so
all
true.
truism.
By the way, I want to step in on that.
Sure.
Man. You've already said 3 or 4 things that are super profound, man. And you are funny, but I introduced you saying he's a deep guy. And it's true. Number one is, if you can't find a way to be blissful and happy when you don't have the very things you want, when you get them, you're not going to be any different. I have tons of friends that I could introduce you to that have a ton of money, weren't happy without it, and aren't happy with it. In fact, to some extent, are less happy with it because they're freaked out about losing it.
Yeah.
You're totally right about that, number one. And number two, this whole idea of you having these failures that you did, what is unique is that there's a lot of approaches to getting a brand. And I've always thought, before you, that the brand had to be you. Like, it had to be, this is who Ed Mylett is and what he stands for, or Sarah Johnson and what she stands for. But you've actually built some brands and some following that were about concepts and thoughts and not just about an individual person, right? Like this idea about the one on influencers in the wild, or Tank's Good News is probably a better example.
Yeah.
Tank's Good News isn't really about you as much as it is about putting stuff out there that can change people's lives for the positive in a really negative space called the internet, right?
Yeah. And listen, this question of is social media, like if you could snap your fingers and make social media disappear, would you or wouldn't you? That's a existential question that I've heard people ask. And it's like, I would not. There's no doubt. And it's not just because I make my living on it. It's because I think that it's a new tool for us that we're just starting to learn how to use and corral. And anytime a kid gets a new toy, they don't really know how to use it. As a human species, we're just learning how to use this. We've had it for 20 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We really are starting to say, all right, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't let one person run an entire, 4 billion person nation. You know what I mean? Maybe we should have some checks and balances there. We will figure it out. I'm confident. And I let, I always say, like, this game, and I know we're going to get to it. Like, people will go, why did you start a game? It's like, well, because I don't love the fact that my whole entire livelihood is at the whim of Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
And whether or not he feels like making the algorithm show people my stuff or not. I trust him. Like, Vine disappeared.
Yeah.
That
point.
is terrifying to me. The fact that people built their whole following on there, and then one day it's literally just gone.
Yeah.
I trust him to do, I really do believe, and I believe this about everybody, I believe he and everyone are doing their best with the tools they have. Even people who don't, a lot of people don't understand social media.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know that they're getting fed information that reflects the world they want to see.
Exactly.
Like, they don't know that they're getting fed A, B, and C because they keep clicking on A, B, and C
Right.
over and over again.
Yeah, you're getting tons of confirmation bias. What you already think you're getting more of, and it feeds this belief system over and over again. But as an influencer or as someone on social, you can flip that and use it to your advantage.
Sure.
Right? And so
Oh, yeah.
he has a board game out that we're going to talk about in a little bit, guys, called Influencers in the Wild, which is really a fascinating account he has, and now the board game. It might even be a TV show at some point. And you are one of those influencers, though. So you became one. So I want everyone to get this as they're listening to this, because we're going to now talk a little bit about some strategies for you guys. This is a guy was in the fencing business. Then he's got this dream job at Def Jam Records, right? He's a waiter. He's, spent his early 20s doing way too many drugs and alcohol. Then he gets sober. 30 years old, he's still broke. What hit? What happened that made, look at, man, I told a lot of very well-known friends of mine that you were going to be on today.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked that every single one of them knew who you were. Not just my day-to-day friends that, I'm talking about like really well-known people.
Drop some names. I need some self-esteem.
Well,
man.
I'll tell you,
just kidding.
but even when I say my day-to-day friends, meaning they're well-known people that I don't interact with very often.
Barack
right?
Obama? Wow, I can't believe.
Well, hey, man, I'm just, if you want to go there, we can. But I just got to tell you, they knew you. And it's like, wow, this guy was a waiter in Aliso Viejo, evidently not that long ago. It was only like a decade ago, right? So
Dude.
What hit? What made your content work? What success leaves clues, right?
Yeah.
Give us some clues. Give someone listening to this, here's some stuff I did, and maybe in your own way you could take this concept and it may work for you to help grow your following or your social media.
Yeah. So you just have to, like Buddha said, life is suffering, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have got to resign yourself to the fact that, so like, when you were introducing me, you said he knows a lot about influencers, and I was like, that sounds kind of embarrassing. You know what I mean? Why do I know that much about influencers? Why do I know so much about this? It's just something I find fascinating. I find it fascinating from a sociological point of view, a psychological point of view. Why do people act like this? What is it about us that needs this attention? And I say us because I'm in on the joke too.
Right. So am I.
I started this thing because I started Tank Sinatra because something was, couple of reasons. One, something was missing from my life, I guess, in retrospect, that void was, that filled that void.
I tell you what I think it is for most people.
Yeah.
I think most people in this world today, because of social media and because of the media, feel invisible, that they're not seen, they're not heard, they don't matter, and potentially this free platform that can be viral in some senses gives us a chance to potentially be seen or heard, and we can express ourselves. What's ironic about that is the very reason people want to do it, they then fear doing it. If I express myself, I'll get criticized. If I express myself, they won't like it. I may get haters. I may get negative comments. Maybe no one will respond. And so the very thing I'm pursuing, I'm going to embarrass myself in a public setting. So I'm better off just kind of hiding and, doing the really safe posts and the safe stuff that I say.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it is for most people.
Yeah. And listen, it's not for everybody. I mean, it's not everyone needs to do this. I mean, if you're good in your life doing whatever job you do, one thing I learned during the Oprah Winfrey show thing was that she said, everyone has their stage. My stage happens to be a very large stage. Your stage might be a conversation that you're having with a stranger one day at a bus stop that you don't even realize you said something that changed their mind, their life, or you smiled at them. Your stage is wherever you are, right? Yeah. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I don't need to have this massive impact on the world. Maybe I'm just like, maybe I'm just meant to be like a normal guy. And that's fine with me. It is what it is at that point. I think what changed was I went into it with no expectations, and I was just enjoying the process of it. I was enjoying making the memes. I was enjoying getting the response from people. listen, when I started Tank Sinatra, here's something that people need to prepare themselves for and just get ready for.
Okay.
People will say to you that you're friends with. So like you start with 0 followers, I said in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It's worse than that. You don't start with 0. You start with 178 or however many you have in real life, and then you post something and it goes down to 167 because your friend's husband unfollows you and goes, "What is she trying to be an influencer now? I don't know. I don't want to see this anymore." You know what I mean?
Really good.
So you got to be ready for that, and you have to say, "Yes, I am. I don't care." That's what happened. I said, "I don't care," and it's not that I don't care in like a nefarious way, like I don't give a, I don't care, bro. Like I just don't care. You don't like what I'm doing? That's literally not my problem. I do like what I'm doing. I'm having so much fun finding these images, writing a caption above them that reflects something funny that happened in my life. Colin Quinn, one of my favorite comedians of all time, famously said, if you want to be good at comedy, don't talk about stuff you think is funny. Talk about stuff that pisses you off, and people will laugh. Because comedy, humor relieves tension.
Very good.
So there's always some kind of tension in the humor that I put out there.
Yeah, there is.
Tank's Good News, the same thing. Tank's Good News is a break from the tension of the media landscape, which is just, as you know, I mean, it's gotten so out of hand with. It all started, in my opinion, my father, I remember playing Trivial Pursuit one day when I was a kid. And one of the questions or the answers was something like, on this day in, let's say, 1972, on November 8th, such and such an anchor said this to such an anchor, and it changed the way news would be reported forever. And my dad goes, "Oh, that was when so-and-so told a joke on the air for the first time. Do you know what I'm talking about?"
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean he told a joke on the air for the first time? And he goes, "They used to be dead serious. No personality, no nothing, just the facts. There was no commercials. You couldn't advertise during the news. It was just like a straight up information delivery with no personality, no flavor whatsoever." You were so far removed from that. I mean, it's almost like no information, all personality now.
Yeah, exactly right.
So I want to just give people, hey, yeah, you can get what went wrong during the day. I'm showing you what went right, because there's almost so much that I can't post it all.
See, I think that's a clue. So I think it's a clue. So part of what you could be posting if you're out there that could draw attention to you or could help you grow your following or could actually just make a difference for people. Maybe you don't have a separate account that's Tank's Good News or Your Good News, but maybe you start to be the person who posts good news every single day. Maybe you're the person who starts to post something funny every single day. Maybe you're the person who starts to post something, dramatic every single day, or that makes someone cry, or that reinforces your faith. And so you don't have to, all your posts don't have to be about you.
Sure.
Your posts can be about things, events, situations, politics, if you wanted it to be. Whatever it is, start to get creative about those things, because listen, the internet's a big place. To be the #1 meme creator in the history of a space means this guy knows what he's doing. This is not a small thing. And by the way, that's not Jay-Z that's the #1 guy that's ever done it. It's not, Kim Kardashian with these massive following. It's actually Tank. It's actually this dude right here. So maybe you're not going to go get hundreds of millions and 4 billion impressions a year and all that other stuff, but start to think, if you're listening to this today, maybe a lot of your posts are just about you and your kids. Maybe some of it could be about, hey, you know what, every day I'm going to bring you a Bible verse, or every day I'm going to bring you something funny, or every day I'm going to tell you something that's, I'm doing dad jokes on my stuff now that are terrible, right? Just fun. But like maybe every day I'm going to tell you some good news, or I'm going to tell you something that'll make you emotional. I'm going to tell you a comeback story every day. I'm going to give you an underdog story every day.
Yeah,
something
you do
like
a great
that.
job with your social media.
Thank
you. You do a great job of showing people, and that's what I wanted to do. That's how it really started to build, because when I first started, and I have to give a shout out to my friend Kevin, who runs White People Humor. When I say the #1 meme creator, which is not my words, by the way,
right.
There's bigger meme pages out there.
But yours gets stolen a lot.
But nobody has psychotically sat and drilled and banged out more memes than I have, except for maybe him, but I'm on the podcast now, so he's #2.
He's 2.
On his page, I'm #2.
Exactly.
Right now, he's #2.
Yeah. But you also get your stuff plagiarized a lot too, right?
100%.
So like if we added all those up, I think you are #1, and he's not sitting here, so you're #1.
Let's say that. Yeah,
let's say that. But we're in the top. You're in the conversation for the top 2. So that's #1. That's social stuff. The other thing is you're consistent. You post regularly. It's something that are kind of almost a dependable thing that they can go to you. One thing that's a lot of people are listening to this, and they know they've got that thing.
they're not working out like they should. Maybe they are in that text thing. Maybe it's that they don't eat the way they should. They don't make the contacts they should. They're not up as early. They got a thing, but they're winning in spite of it, right? In spite of it, they've got some winning going on. Because in spite of the fact for many years, Dean, that you weren't as congruent as you wanted to be, you were still producing financial success.
Massively.
Massively.
Yeah.
But what's happened the last 4 or 5 years is your life has become a freaking rocket ship in terms of influence. You guys, Dean's been famous a long time. You go back to all the infomercial days. If you've not seen Dean or you hear this voice, it's because Dean was all over television forever. Very successful in that space, in the influence space, the real estate space, as he was not congruent in every area of his life. But man, the last 4 or 5 years. So speak to that. If you can solve that thing you got, it's like a football team who's got no running game. Man, if they could just run the football, they've already got a good passing game. Their defense is good. They're a playoff team already. But if they could run the football, they're going to win the Super Bowl. There's always that thing, right? True or false?
So, okay, and I love this question, and I love hanging out with you, man. And thank you for everybody listening. I know you have lots of options, so thanks for hanging out with two friends, talking about stuff where I had no idea what we were talking about. So this is really cool. Here's what I know. What happens sometimes, I'll tell you what I did for a decade. If we're going to talk about relationships, I'll be completely transparent. I thought about leaving my relationship every day of my life for 5 years. It was almost the first thing I thought about every day, not because she's a bad human in any way. It just wasn't the right fit. I'm not an advocate of divorce, but it just didn't fit. But here's what I did for years. I was financially successful. At the time, I thought I was the best dad possible, even though I wasn't showing them the best example. But I thought, I'm an engaged father. I coach Little League, coach softball. I'm there. I bring them to school, make them lunches, love them to death. I'm a great leader to my team. I'm a good friend to people who need me. So my relationship's off and I'm not congruent. I should be freaking fortunate. So who gets it all? This is what I remember. Oh, you want it all, Dean. You want love and congruency and a good dad and financially free. And I remember just thinking, stop being greedy. If your relationship doesn't work, but really what I was doing, Ed, is I wasn't facing something because it was scary to me. It was scary leaving my kids and not thinking of not being with my kids every single day was like a shot in the gut. And I just ignored it and avoided it, and it grew. It grew to where I didn't become the man that I was supposed to be. Listen, whatever you believe in, God, the universe, I believe in God, and I believe God has created you to be bigger, better, and stronger than you currently are. No matter where you are in your life, God wants you to be the woman you were meant to be, the man you were meant to be. And if you believe in karma, whatever your beliefs are, you are meant to be more. And when you let one of those areas build, it doesn't go away. I don't care how much I try to push it down on the inside, it just kept growing. And you feel that you're looking away from it, even though it's there. And I want you to think about this. When you have to, some things are difficult. You might have to face a change of a business, a change of a business partner, change of a job, change in a relationship. The thing that you've been avoiding is growing, even though you think it's not.
Wow.
And it's like got roots, and the roots are creeping over into all areas of your life, and you don't know it, and you're working harder, stronger, faster to overcome this, and you think you're conquering it. If you're in a relationship that's not good, and maybe you go to the strip club, or you text on your phone, or you do something, and you think you're fulfilling it, you're not. You're just letting the roots grow in deeper and stronger, and you're working twice as hard to be successful, and you don't even realize it. And here's the way I looked at it. When I decided, or we decided to get a divorce, and you can use this analogy, you could tell I got some silly analogies. You can use this in any area of your life. Picture your ship is in a bay. It's calm. The water's calm. There's other great ships in the bay. The weather's kind of beautiful. It's kind of nice. But you know you're not meant to be in that bay. But man, it just has all the signs where you're supposed to be there. But the only way out of that bay is you got to sail your ship through the storm that's out in the ocean, and you're watching the storm, and you're watching how turbulent it is. You're in the bay and it's comfortable, but the only way to your next level, the only way to break through, the only way to get rid of those roots, to kind of crush that thing that's you're avoiding or afraid of, is you got to sail your ship through the storm. You see the storm, it's turbulent, the waves are high, the sky is dark, and you're not even sure because you've never navigated that territory. You don't have a map because you've never been there. You've never experienced it. And the way I looked at it when I was going through a divorce is I was so scared for my kids, not me being alone, but scared on how that would work out with my kids, that a lot of times I put my ship in the storm, it got bumpy, and I went back to the bay. And I'll tell you, when I finally said, I can't be the man I'm supposed to be staying in this harbor, even though it's pretty and there's great people around, and it's going through that storm, going through the changes, the navigating of new territory. You're mapping out new territory on the fly, and your ship's going down, and you want to turn back 100 times. But there's this moment, and it happened to me when I went through a divorce. There was this moment where I didn't know if I could take it, and I was scared for my kids, and I was having anxiety attacks. But I want to share with you, there was this moment that my ship landed on the other side of the storm, and it was over. And I was a different human. I was a different man. I looked through a different lens. I had a new map. And I realized I wasn't meant for that other bay. Yes, it was safe. Yes, it was okay. But listen, at the end of our lives, do we want to be okay, right? And when I got to the other side, it was this fresh start. I found a way to be friends with my ex. I found a way for my kids to be safe. I found a way to replace quantity with quality with my children. I found a way to be a better version of me and attract Lisa in my life. And when those roots were gone, this is what I want to share with all of you for that one area of your life that you know what I'm talking about. As you're hearing this, you're picturing it. And you're going, wow, nobody really knows that I do that when no one's watching. Nobody knows that I'd like to fix that. No one knows that I kind of BS everybody else and say I'm working on it, but I'm not. I want to tell you, when they go away, your sailboat turns into a ship with 5 engines on it. Wow. Like my life exponentially grew. I became a better dad, a better leader, a better friend. I had more compassion, had more empathy. I replaced anger with compassion, and I just became a different person. I mean, I think I was a good man 10 years ago, but I wouldn't recognize him. I'm not the same human today. And that allowed me to go faster. And I just encourage you, you've heard this before, but your next level lives on the other side of the thing you're avoiding, the other thing you're afraid of. And Ed, I think I heard you say this, all of us, we get to learn from each other and listen to each other. And I'll go listen to a podcast when I need I'll listen to a little Ed Mylett or watch it. But I remember somebody saying, it may have been you. But what drives me to fix those pieces, guys, and I want you to hear this, the business that you want to scale, start, the relationship you want to fix or end, the parenting style that you've gone so long doing it one way, you think it's too late and you got to fight for it, it's worth the fight, whatever it is, the fight. I just want to tell you, I've always pictured being at the end of my life and having a conversation with God. And he said, how did it go? Yep. Right? Always picture that. And I always have the fear of going, well, I was in a good relationship. Right? Or things were okay. I was great at my business, great at impacting lives, and I did this, and I was a good dad. What about your relationship? It was okay. Like I picture saying that to someone where we have this creation given to us, this opportunity, and I feel like this inner disappointment where I'd want to scream and go, you know what? Damn it, can I do that over? And you don't get that chance. You don't get that chance. Like you don't get a do-over, and you'd want to. So I put those emotions of my future back on me. Things you've, again, already heard. And I think I heard this from you, Ed, or someone, but I heard someone put that on a whole nother level. Could you imagine if God pulled out his iPhone and said, Ed, I appreciate all you've done and you've served and you give in that one area of life. Can I play you a quick video of the man you could have been?
That's my stuff. Yeah.
That is yours. I knew I heard that from you. When I heard that from you, Ed, it changed. It honestly took what I had been telling myself my last conversation with God. And when I heard that from you, I've shared that and I feel that all the time. And if I didn't, I want to share this with you guys, and I hope it's relating to where you are in your life right now. If you're looking for what's going to drive you, what's going to take you to the next level, how do you move your lighthouse out? How do you wake up compelled again, not just want to chill? And how do you find that thrive, that energy, that zest for life again? I just want to share with you that if I didn't sail my ship out of that harbor, that safe harbor, and go through, I'm understating what I went through. I don't take aspirin. When I was going through a divorce, worrying about my kids, I was popping Xanax 3 days a week because I couldn't control my anxiety. I was drinking a glass of wine 5 nights a week because I couldn't put myself to sleep. So I'm understating how bad I was for a short period of time. When I was in the middle of that storm, I thought of turning back because I felt so crappy about myself and worried about my kids so much. But I want to tell you, on the other side, I never would have experienced what real love could be like. I have love in a way that I wish it for every single one of you. There's nothing I can even share that compares to having a true soulmate that's got your back, that supports you and loves you, and you feel the same, where you don't keep score and you got each other's back. I never would have experienced that if I didn't go through the storm. And whatever that storm is for you, you have to have that compelling future, and you have to stay steadfast and realize if you go back to where you were, you'll get more of what you used to have.
Brother, that's just absolutely riveting. And that's why, I mean, I knew we would do some magic stuff today, or you would. I just didn't know to what extent. I didn't even know where it would go. But for a lot of you, that safe harbor is not your relationship, it's your job. It's where you're working right now, and you've got this dream. And by the way, that dream you keep trying to suppress, that's going to keep rising up as well. It doesn't go away. And
Never.
if you wait too long, you'll get to a point where it is too late. And you're going to be watching that video of your life. It's an interesting thing. Two things occurred to me. One is that the people that I love the most, man, they have two things. I'm going to ask you a question about the second one. But one of them is, oddly, we do contemplate death more than most people. I think the contemplation of the end of your life causes you to be so present now because you know that there's a finite amount of time. It's when you don't contemplate the end that you think you have forever. Most people think everyone else is going to die. They don't think they're going to die. Everyone else is going to die. You're going to die too. There's going to be an end to this. And by the time you're at the end of it, all the shit you worried about, the crap that you stressed over, the people you were concerned about what they thought, the risks you didn't take, the things you didn't pursue, the pain you weren't willing to go through, you will regret worrying about those things and not going through the pain. You will regret when you watch that video. And so contemplating that end is important.